All right. We should be live on the second channel. I'm just going to throw this up while I set everything up.
And I want to pick up on what the member from Winnipeg North said. It is this resounding loyalty to the mess that is Bill C-2. I still don't think he has given up on this issue of a warrant and believing that Canada Post can open your mail without a warrant. This is the type of verbiage we're hearing in this House when it comes to Bill C-2. Now, the overall aims of having a secure border, we all agree with. But I'm wondering if my honourable colleague would agree the government really missed the mark there, and that's how we got here to C-12. Thank you.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
I thank my honourable colleague from Kamloops who practices law there. I parenthetically think we could use more lawyers in this place, people who understand how to read legislation and say, this seems to have something funny about it. We don't want warrantless access to our private information. Never mind, I do agree with my friend from Kamloops that there's a concern here that the government hasn't given up on the idea of further invasions of our privacy.
Questions and comments? Question, commentaire. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can appreciate that the Green Party, through the leader, have indicated that they will not be supporting Bill C-12. I'm wondering if she could provide her thoughts in regards to the Prime Minister's commitment to build upon our border control officers and our CMP by 1,000 personnel in each area. Does she believe that that is a positive thing?
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
And I thank my honourable friend, the Deputy House Leader. Yes, we certainly support the CBSA. We felt for some time that to the extent that our border was in any way porous, it was the risk not of fentanyl, as Mr. Trump seems to believe, coming from Canada into the U.S., but rather the opposite of other drugs particularly, and precursors of other drugs, and illegal weapons coming from the U.S. into Canada. CBSA officers need to have the ability to have the time and be fully resourced to inspect things as they come to our border. But I do express concern briefly that the RCMP officers that we are hiring, we need to look at the Mass Casualty Commission report, which recommended that our RCMP officers need more training. 26 weeks is not enough. The Mass Casualty Commission recommended a 3-year course to ensure that the RCMP are adequately trained to do the very challenging job they have in front of them.
Resuming debate, reprise de débat, the Honourable Member for Ponoka-Disbury.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure for me to rise today on behalf of the residents of Ponoka-Disbury. Mr. Speaker, after a long decade of nihilistic Liberal rule, chaos and disorder reign supreme in our streets. Criminality may only be one of the many problems that Canadians face, but it is a significant one. A survey by Abacus Data released this year in 2025 found that 46% of Canadians rank crime and public safety among their top concerns. This can be contrasted with an Ipsos poll taken in June of 2015, the year our previous Conservative government left office, that found that 15% of Canadians ranked crime and violence among the national agenda issues at the time. And Mr. Speaker, I'll let Canadians ponder those two statistics to find out just who has been a better steward of peace, safety, and security in this country. Canadians understand that the situation is untenable. After all, it is they who have had to shoulder the burden of this rise in criminality in our communities. For context, since 2015, violent crime has spiked significantly, up nearly 50%. But that's not all. Crime of almost every category has seen an increase. Sexual assaults are up nearly 75%. Homicides, 28%. Gang-related homicides, organized crime, 75% increase. Violent firearms offenses with illegal guns, up 116%. Extortion, 357%. Auto theft, 46%. Trafficking, nearly 84%. Fraud, homicide, you name it, it's all going up. I could continue, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, but I think you get the picture. This upswing in violence is not a coincidence. It is a result of soft on-crime policies and a porous border. It is the realization of the law of unintended consequences brought on by a decade of bad policy informed by a worldview that cares more about optics than it concerns itself with the real-life effects of its own self-serving ideological agenda. We now have a so-called government that is presenting bills in this House that purport to fix this collection of self-inflicted issues that Canadians face. These are the same problems that the members across the aisle from me have themselves created. In 2015, our Conservative government oversaw a Canada that had its lowest total crime rate since 1969. Unfortunately, the last 10 years has seen this progress almost completely erased. It is the hypocrisy of this government that they have opposed and demonized those that support our hard-on-crime agenda, while now implicitly acknowledging that we as Conservatives were right all along. So how did we get here? In 2022, Bill C-5 was passed. In this piece of legislation, this Liberal government removed the mandatory minimums on 14 different criminal code offences. These were common sense penalties on dangerous offences that were instituted and put in place by our Conservative government, bills that I proudly passed when I sat on the other side of the House. This includes such things as using a firearm or imitation firearm in the commission of an offence. You don't have to go to jail for that anymore in Canada, thanks to Liberals. Possession of a firearm or weapon knowing that its possession is unauthorized. So illegal possession of a gun, for example. These offences, no longer do you have to go to jail. Possession of a prohibited or restricted firearm with ammunition. You don't have to go to jail anymore, Mr. Speaker. Possession of a weapon obtained by the commission of an offence. So if you steal a gun, you don't have to go to jail. Weapons trafficking. Possession for purposes of weapons trafficking. Smuggling. So you can smuggle now, you can smuggle weapons now in this country and not go to jail. Importing or exporting knowing it's unauthorized. Again, another example of smuggling. This is what happens when you can traffic smuggled firearms and guns, ammunition, weapons, you name it. Discharging a firearm with intent or discharging a firearm recklessly, you no longer need to go to jail. You want to commit a robbery? You might as well do it with a gun, Mr. Speaker, because you don't have to go to jail for that either in this country anymore. And extortion with a firearm. Didn't I just say that extortion is up 357% since 2015? But the mandatory minimum penalty for extortion with a firearm is gone, thanks to Bill C-5, thanks to Liberals and the NDP that supported them at the time. In fact, these policies were all informed by expert opinion, yet this government did not seem to care. Instead, they doubled down and passed Bill C, and before even C-5, Mr. Speaker, they doubled down and passed Bill C-75 during their majority tenure from 2015 to 2019. This bill eased bail provisions and legislated the principle of restraint, codified it in the criminal code, for police and courts to ensure that criminals would be released at the earliest possible opportunity with the least amount of restrictions, essentially favoring release over detention, and it is precisely these two bills, along with some other bad, well, copious number of bad decisions that have been made, that have created the revolving door in our justice system where offenders are free to continue to terrorize communities. Well, they were making life easier for these criminals by passing C-5 and Bill C-75, for example. They increased their attacks on law-abiding firearms owners that are in no way responsible for any of this crime wave. They did so with a trifecta of bills with unlimited public safety, with zero public safety value, Mr. Speaker. These bills would be C-71, which created a backdoor gun registry, the 2020 Order in Council, a massive list of newly restricted firearms, 2023's C-21 that created a national freeze on the sale, purchase, and transfer of handguns for law-abiding citizens and sport shooters, as well as a new prohibitions on many long guns used for hunting and sport shooting purposes. And since the passing of these bills, this government has not stopped adding firearms to the restricted list. Now they've embarked on their so-called voluntary assault-style firearms compensation program, which is the gun grab, which is the confiscation program from law-abiding citizens, completely missing the mark, letting criminals go free and going after people who follow the law. If implemented, this costly and ineffective gun buyback is estimated to cost at least $5 billion, even though they've only allocated $742 million to it. But with that kind of money, Mr. Speaker, The government could easily fund programs such as acquiring modern scanning technology at our 119 ports of entry to secure our border. Just for example, Mr. Speaker, and I brought this up during the C21 committee hearings. In the Cayman Islands, they bought a high-efficiency scanner that you can actually drive right through, a truck right through, put a C-can through this thing. You can put it at any port of entry that you want. It'll scan that container. It's safe for anybody that happens to be going through, and you'll find all manner of contraband, drugs, people, firearms, and illegal weapons, all of these things. Those are about $3 million a piece. This government's going to spend, it says, $750 million to take lawfully acquired property away from Canadians. That's about $500 million. Divide by $3 million per scanner, we could easily put 150 of these scanners in our ports of entry to make sure that we scan at least 10% of every container coming in and coming out. I think most Canadians would be shocked to realize that we don't even scan a single container that leaves our country. And here's the shocking thing about all of this. The administration to the south, the change in administration, has made the claim that fentanyl was flowing from Canada into the United States and as a result was killing American citizens. Now, you would have thought that a prime minister in Canada would have said, well, that's funny because the flow of illegal guns across the border from the United States into Canada is killing Canadian citizens, and pushed back on the American administration and stood up for law-abiding firearms in this country. But they didn't, because they didn't want to admit that it was illegal guns that are killing Canadians on the street, because they wanted to maintain their mantra of going after law-abiding citizens, which we know because the current public safety minister has actually said as much when he thought nobody was listening. So how does all of this relate to Bill C-12? In the last decade is any indication, this government has an issue understanding that policy work is a careful game of trade-offs. When enacting policy, you have to heed the law of unintended consequences and try to understand the downward effects a piece of legislation may have. They did not do their due diligence on crime, and I don't think that they've done it on this border bill, Mr. Speaker. So when our Conservative colleagues forced the Liberals to back down on Bill C-2, we did so because we understand that those policies contained in Bill C-2 have unintended consequences and unforeseen ramifications. And like Bill C-2, we believe that there could be provisions in C-12 that violate people's freedoms and privacy. And it's our duty to ensure that this bill, C-12, receives the proper scrutiny that it deserves at the committee stage to ensure Canadians don't pay for another boondoggle of unintended, or maybe not unintended consequences, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Questions and comments. Question et commentaire. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the member was reading off some statistics, I did a quick search just to find out from Stats Canada on some crime issues, and I found it interesting. This is from Stats Canada. Crime Severity Index down 4.1%. Police reported crime per 100,000 population down by minus 3.6%. Violent Crime Severity Index down by 1%. Youth crime rate per 100,000 down by 4.2%. Nonviolent crime severity index down by 5.7%. This is actually on Stats Canada, Mr. Speaker. I'm wondering if the member would recognize that stats can be used in different ways. And the bottom line is that we are bringing in a bail reform legislation, something in which our new Prime Minister has actually made a solemn commitment to Canadians, and I suspect it'll deal with many of the issues that Canadians are concerned about. My question to the member is, would he not agree, whether it's
A high-ranking government official of India said, if Canada was such a safe country, then why do I need protection to just, like, walk around? And I think that pretty much answers your question. Yes, he's a high-ranking official, but most people within this country wouldn't know that just by looking at him. He's just another guy in a suit. So, at the end of the day, it does raise a lot of concerns and questions when officials from other countries don't feel safe coming here. It's actually crazy. And Kevin can list off all of these statistics and percentages, but you just gotta listen to what people say. And even if you watch the news for all of 5 minutes, you could see the out-of-control crime that is hitting communities every single day.
Bill C-12 or the...
Order. I do have to give time to the member to respond. The Honourable Member for Ponoka-Disbury.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, some people around here talk so much that they don't get to the point of actually asking their question. But if I understand what he was asking me, Mr. Speaker, is will we support Bill C-12? Yeah, we will support it to get it to committee, and we will do our due diligence, and that's why we're having the debate here in the House of Commons. But I've raised a number of very serious issues in the speech that I had. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, I've led the Rural Crime Task Force in a previous parliament. Rural crime is up. The dangerous and violent crime in this country is up. Police associations across the country are saying that this government has misguided policies for the last 10 years, and they're doubling down on them in this particular parliament. And where is the bail bill? Because it's been 7 months. Mr. Speaker, I had the ability to draft a piece of legislation over the summer and table it for my private member's bill. Why can't the government, with all of its resources, table a bill on bail in 7 months?
Questions and comments. The honourable member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's clear that the government has two bills on the order paper right now, Bill C-2 and Bill C-12. They're very, very similar bills. The second bill has a few things missing that the first bill has, but they've retained that first bill still on the order paper. We've asked the Liberals this question this morning over and over again to get an understanding of why they would have both of these bills that are essentially doing the same thing still on the order paper. I wonder if the member, who by the way gave an outstanding speech, if he can shed some light as to why he thinks the Liberals have both of these live bills right now on the floor of the House. Thank you.
The honourable member for Ponoka-Disbury.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if you ever wanted to see a government that doesn't know what it's actually doing and what it looks like and what it manifests itself like in the House of Commons, they'll table a bill and realize that they've got it wrong, and then they'll table another bill in hopes that they might have got it actually right. So this has been talked about. The previous member from Saanich Gulf Island spoke about it as well. We've got two bills now on the order paper that essentially do the same thing. My confidence in this government getting Bill C-12 right in lieu of Bill C-2 is a little bit improved, Mr. Speaker, but the reality is we're only going to support Bill C-12 as far as it gets to committee, and we'll take a look if what I understand to be true is that if reasonable amendments can be made to actually strengthen the bill and make it better, then we might have another conversation at third reading. But at this particular point in time, Mr. Speaker, this is how incompetence looks. You've got one bill, and then you got another one that does the same thing because they didn't get it right the first time.
Questions and comments. Question et commentaire. L'honorable député de...
The honourable member for Shefford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague for his speech. In any discussion of border security, the RCMP must absolutely come up. How does my colleague view criticism of the RCMP in a context when we need more officers to secure our border?
Disbury.
Well, I appreciate the question. I'm sure the member I wouldn't have time to litigate the issues with Commissioner Lucky, the previous Minister of Public Safety, who's now a Member of Parliament, I think, for Scarborough Southwest. That was actually played out in the public discourse. It was actually even criticisms offered up by the RCMP senior officers themselves about the conduct of the minister and the commissioner of the RCMP at the time. And that's a conflated issue with what's going on right now. We stand shoulder to shoulder with the frontline men and women who protect our country day to day, whether they're a police officer, a border services agent, or a correctional services officer, and we need to continue to support them. But you know how you do that, Mr. Speaker? You actually make it so that when they do their job, when they go out and risk their lives to apprehend and arrest and convict a bad guy, that the bad guy stays in jail for a while. Otherwise, what's the point in a police officer risking his life to go do the job? We need tougher laws so that when our police do the job that we've asked them to do, there's consequences.
Resuming debate.
Excellent.
Reprise de débat.
Excellent point.
The honourable member for Shefford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, I rise today to debate Bill C-12 on border security and immigration, which is a follow-up to another bill, C-2. The government somewhat withdrew that one and came back with C-12, and we're still studying border security and immigration, subjects raised by each of these two bills. This will be studied in committee. Mr. Speaker, we will do a thorough study, as we always do. In my speech, I will highlight how this bill is necessary but incomplete. I will touch on the lack of human resources among the CBSA and the RCMP.
All right, so we got a little bit of wiggle room here, about 10 minutes or so. I respect the block to a little bit of a degree, not fully, but yeah, we're gonna move on through a majority of this speech here. We got about 25 minutes until statements by members, and then question period.
I'd like to thank my honorable colleague. I'm happy that the bloc will be supporting Bill C-12, and they're favorable to sending the bill to committee. Asylum seekers represent an important issue in Quebec, including in my riding. C-12 should lead to some solutions on this front. What are measures that the bloc appreciates in C-12 that will strengthen our borders? The honourable member for Shefford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said earlier, the issue is that there needs to be more resources. The government did announce support for the RCMP and more resources for them, but that is not being the case for the CBSA. So there are steps in the right direction, but there's still more work that needs to be done. That's why we believe in sending this bill to committee so that we can study how to strengthen our border. We know the CBSA needs more resources, and the government has increased resources to some agencies, but needs to do more. As for asylum seekers, the issue is that Quebec is doing more than its fair share. The resources are not there. And the Liberals seem not to want to recognize that Quebec is already doing more than its fair share. The rest of Canada needs to get involved. Questions and comments?
Thank
you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think that this bill is coming at an interesting time after 10 years of this Liberal government that have brought forward soft on crime policies that have weakened our border and have put Canada in a situation that we are currently in. At the Indigenous Affairs Committee, we're doing a lot of discussion right now about First Nations policing as well, hearing about the increased gang activity and drugs being brought in to First Nations across the country, and we see that in northwestern Ontario in my riding, Mr. Speaker. And the government has ignored the calls from First Nation and Indigenous police services for more recognition and a better deal in terms of the resources and the structures that they have to deal with a lot of those issues. So this bill is being brought forward at a time when the government is making it easier to get bail. They're failing First Nation police services. They're failing on a lot of counts when it comes to the border and to criminal justice. I'm wondering if the member has any comments on that.
The honourable member for Shefford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We'll need to review this bill in committee, and I hope we can delve into those questions then. The Public Safety Committee will be studying C-12 and border security writ large. The Justice Committee will also weigh in on such questions, and I encourage them to take a closer look at these issues through a nonpartisan lens. My colleague asked about Indigenous policing. The Bloc believes in a nation-to-nation dialogue with Indigenous peoples. And I didn't get to mention this in my speech, but border issues have a disproportionate impact on Indigenous women. So we should be dealing with this through an organized crime lens, but we should also be working with organizations fighting modern slavery and human trafficking. My colleague from Rivière du Nord and my other colleague from Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte both have raised issues of modern slavery around the world. These are important issues to the Bloc, and we look forward to addressing these issues. The honourable member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to commend my colleague for her speech. My question for her is, one of the things that we have observed when working on this bill was that there were certain proposals related to asylum seekers that seem to have been inspired by Bloc Québécois recommendations. We have made these calls in the past. The government has ignored us for years, and now suddenly they all seem ready to accept. So how does my colleague account for this? The honourable member for Shefford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to commend my colleague from Lac-Saint-Jean for the work on this file. We've always dealt with immigration in a humane and thorough way. Yes, the Bloc has talked about revising the Third Safe Country Agreement. We have also called for asylum seekers to be spread more evenly throughout the country. Because right now, Quebec is disproportionately impacted by these asylum seekers, and the federal government is not giving us enough money to support these people with dignity.
The honourable member for Parkland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to wish this entire House a very happy Trafalgar Day, a day in which we remember the sacrifice and brave leadership of Admiral Horatio Nelson, who gave his life in defense against Bonapartist tyranny. And also, I would be remiss if I did not mention that the Royal Canadian Navy today is celebrating Niobe Day, which 115 years ago today marked the first day of a Canadian warship, the HMCS Niobe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is a privilege to rise today and speak on Bill C-12, titled Strengthening Canada's Immigration System and Borders Act. We're here today discussing this bill instead of Liberal Bill C-2 because Liberal Bill C-2 was met with considerable opposition from members of this House and from civil society groups who made it clear that this legislation would not be able to move forward without significant revisions. And so today we're debating Bill C-12. Despite the sweeping powers this government proposed in C-2, the Liberal government did not even bother to consult with the Privacy Commissioner about the impacts that this legislation would have on the privacy rights of Canadians. And it's only because of the accountability provided by members of the opposition in this House that we were able to push that legislation back so that we could focus on legislation that would at least try to repair the damage of the last 10 years of this Liberal government by introducing changes on the border. Now, the objectives of this bill for those constituents of mine who are watching at home are several. They are include, but not limited to, creating an expedited pathway for the Minister of Health to add precursor chemicals used in the production of deadly drugs such as fentanyl as controlled substances under the Criminal Code. And for the past few years, we've seen the devastation of the fentanyl overdose crisis in Canada, and we've been hearing at Public Safety Committee about some of the many gaps that we have in this country, including testimony that has indicated that the non-resident import program is being used to smuggle these precursor chemicals into Canada with less stringency at the border, which is creating a situation where Canada has become a major producer of fentanyl. And this fentanyl is being exported. We've seen recent stories of countries like New Zealand and Australia being the recipients of drugs like fentanyl and methamphetamine. And clearly, this is not the reputation that a great country like Canada wants to have. Another part of this legislation seeks to amend the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act to eliminate the designated countries of origin regime, which has been identified as a loophole. It will give the minister the powers to specify that required documents are needed to support a refugee claim. It will require the suspension of certain refugee protection proceedings if the claimant is not present in Canada, something which I think should be common sense, that somebody should be present in Canada if they're claiming refugee status here. It seeks to change the Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Acts to increase the maximum monetary penalties for those who are charged under these acts. And it also seeks to make certain changes to the Sex Offender Information Registry Act to allow for increased reporting of the offender's description, as well as changes to the circumstances and frequency of reporting. It will also allow for information that has been previously collected to be disclosed if it can reasonably be expected to assist in the prevention or investigation of a crime of a sexual nature. Once again, I think these things are long overdue. We probably need to go even further, but certainly not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one. So even with this second attempt at this legislation, the Liberal bill still fails to address the key issue of bail reform. We know that catch and release is alive and well for those who traffic in fentanyl and use illegal firearms, using our porous border to victimize more and more Canadian families. We know that the sentencing provisions that were passed by this government under C-75 and C-5 have still made it so that there are no mandatory prison times for those who traffic fentanyl. And there are still no new mandatory prison times for gangsters who use illegal guns to commit crimes, despite this Liberals government's incessant campaign against law-abiding gun owners. And we also know that house arrest is still being used in extensive cases relating to violent criminals. Once again, this is unacceptable. Now, that said, I think we can all agree that strengthening our border is critical, and that's where legislation is desperately needed in this area. After 10 years of these reckless Liberal policies, our border is broken, and we need to fix it. The Liberal soft on crime agenda has made Canada a destination for international organized criminals trafficking in drugs, weapons, people, and stolen cars. These gangs are committing brutal crimes on our streets every day. Now, the Public Safety Committee has looked at these issues in depth, and we've repeatedly heard that it's the broken bail system that has contributed to this crisis. Organized criminals have chosen to make Canada their home because of our weak laws. We also know that this government's failed immigration policies have also assisted with making Canada a destination for international organized crime. This government has, in the past, removed visa requirements over the objections of our law enforcement agencies, who stated that the removal of these visas would increase the risk of organized crime taking root in this country, and yet this government moved forward with it anyways. And it's critical that these policies be reversed so that we can once again make Canada the safest country in the world. Now, I want to be clear that nothing that I'm saying today is a criticism of our brave frontline law enforcement officers in the RCMP and the CBSA. We know that they're doing their absolute best. We've heard from police associations in Ontario. I've heard from RCMP members in my riding when I'm out knocking on doors just this past election, for example, that they're arresting people and they're seeing them go out on the street. These are for drug offenses. They're going out on the street mere hours after being arrested. How demoralizing for our frontline officers, Mr. Speaker. We have heard from Mark Weber of the Customs Union, the union that represents CBSA workers, that morale at the CBSA is at the lowest levels he's ever seen. That's after 10 years of this Liberal government. Now we see this government keeps recycling its promises to keep hiring more border services officers, but it's clear that much more needs to be done to strengthen our border and our security service. Canada has the largest undefended border in the world, and that was something that I think we could all be very proud of as a country. But the lack of resources to the CBSA to do their role has seen a rise in smuggling in this country, a rise in human trafficking, and a rise in people coming to this country to pursue their criminal activities. It's skyrocketed over the past decade. The CBSA has been sounding the alarm, but this government hasn't been listening. There is plenty of evidence to substantiate these points, but I'll pick one specific example. At Immigration Committee, IRCC officials have stated that they believe that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of violent criminals who are here illegally. These are violent criminals who are not citizens, they're not permanent residents, they're temporary residents who are violent people, and they have no idea where these people are. And currently, when I asked the Customs and Union employee, they said there's only a couple hundred CBSA officers who are tasked with trying to track down these thousands of violent criminals who are at large in this country, and it's unacceptable. We also know that on the nonviolent side that there are currently around 50,000 people who have come to Canada on student visas whose visas have now run out. They are here illegally, and CBSA does not have the resources to reach out to these people, and they do not have the resources to remove these people who are now in this country illegally. And despite these shockingly high figures, as I said, there's something like only 300 CBSA officers who've been dedicated to this gargantuan task. Now, one of the reasons why CBSA is suffering so much, as their union said, is that they're drowning in middle management. They're not getting the frontline officers that they need to do the job. And that's endemic of everything that this Liberal government has done for the last 10 years. Let's look at this great paradox where we have a government where the bureaucracy has grown by 45% across the civil service, and yet we have less frontline workers in critical areas like the CBSA, RCMP, and the Canadian Armed Forces than ever before. How does that make any sense? They're padding middle management and upper management at the detriment of frontline workers, the frontline workers who are doing the dangerous jobs that we need them to do to keep us safe. Now, action is desperately needed, and the largest beneficiary of this government's failed immigration and criminal policies has been organized crime. Canada's become a low-risk, high-reward environment. They choose the path of least resistance. These strict border controls put in place during the pandemic saw the Canadian market shift from being an importer of fentanyl to becoming a domestic producer. Now, CSIS is...
Yeah, he's got a lot of pages, but at least he's a conservative MP, so he's going against the legislation that's being brought before the House. But it sounds like the Liberal government is attempting to implement 2 different border bills. In the first bill, they didn't cover enough, so they're implementing a second one to make up for a few things and then implement even more. I don't know, restrictions or laws or whatever the hell they want to do. So, yeah, it's kind of a major shit show. But anyway, we're a little bit behind in terms of the live feed, so I don't know, I think we got about 5 minutes.
Questions and comments? The Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot of talk has occurred today regarding the comments of the Leader of the Opposition when he referred to the RCMP as, quote, despicable. We've been asking some members of the Conservatives about this today. Some have wanted to say something, like the member from Bow River who referred to the RCMP as having, quote, management weaknesses. Others, on the other hand, haven't really wanted to weigh in. The member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes had a lozenge in his throat when he was asked about it and therefore couldn't say anything. I'm wondering if this member would like to weigh in as to whether or not he thinks that the leadership of the RCMP is despicable.
The Honourable Member from Parkland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, when this government tries to distract Canadians from the real failures that this government has created, they are giving our frontline, it is despicable that this government has not given the resources to our frontline officers to do the job that they're doing, and they're hiding so that they can avoid accountability for the failures. The CBSA union has said that their morale is at the lowest level that it has ever been, and that's under 10 years of failed Liberal leadership, and Conservatives will take no lessons from these Liberals on how to stand up for our...
Thank you, and the Honourable Member from... Where's he at?
Is this guy like a last-minute speaker? He's not wearing the garb or anything.
Mr. Speaker, you made a great choice there. I appreciate the comments from the member from Parkland and sharing those thoughts. He just spoke about the Liberal failures. Of course, the Liberals have been government now for 10 years, Mr. Speaker, and what we've seen is that they've broken the bail system. They have failed to get frontline officers on the border or from law enforcement the resources they need. I'm wondering if the member wants to speak more to that about this pattern of failure of this Liberal government to keep Canadians safe.
The Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my honourable colleague for his excellent question and his hard work for his constituents. We know he's doing an excellent job in Northern Ontario. Now, Mr. Speaker, it's clear that the ideological bent of this government is not to empower our frontline officers to do their job. This is a government that's beholden to a woke ideology where they pass bills like C-75 that tell judges to let criminals out at the earliest convenience with the least amount of restraints. And it's clear that it's policies like this that are being called out by frontline police officers, called out by police associations, that are causing the havoc and violence that we're seeing on our street. Our party stands behind our...
Questions and comments? Time for a short. Is that no? Shepherd.
Shepherd.
Honourable Member from Shepherd.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his speech. But one important aspect, and as I mentioned...
This guy was definitely a last-minute speaker. He has no idea what he's doing.
And human resources, to make sure we have enough officers and personnel at border crossings
Could do a little
be
bit of
efficient.
skip ahead here.
Longest to man every inch of our border. And that's why we need to make investments in technology and equipment. Except when this government had the opportunity to hire Canadian workers and Canadian businesses, what did they do? They chose to hire Black Hawk helicopters from the US government that they had to give a Transport Canada waiver to because these helicopters were not safe to fly over Canadian skies. Why are they choosing American companies over Canadian companies that can do the job? We need to grow our made in Canada border security, not hire companies that have to get waivers because they're not safe to use in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
How does Canada protect its borders? By hiring Americans. Oh my God. You can't make it up. You can't make... Oh, what a joke. Alright, I'm gonna skip directly to the live feed. We're roughly 4 minutes out from statements by members, and then officially question period. I can't believe that. How does Canada defend its borders? Oh, let's get some American Black Hawk helicopters to fly over. Wow.
Canadians have learned that with this government, the title rarely matches its contents. Bill C-12 is a sequel to Bill C-2. Thankfully, Conservatives looked closer, and what we found were some sweeping data collection powers, warrantless speech, search authorities, and new threats to Canadian privacy. And therefore, through pressure, thankfully, the Liberals have been forced to sort of take this bill apart, and now we're left with Bill C-12, slightly repackaged, but with many of the same problems. And in my job as an educational therapist for 20 years, we talk about breakdown points. And sometimes it seems very negative to talk about breakdown points when you're talking about families and children with learning disabilities and things like that. But in this scenario, I think...
Oh, they probably are better, 100%. But it's like the fact that we, as a country, can't defend our own borders, and we rely so much on the United States for defense. It is crazy. To the point where we're even willing to go out of our way to hire private companies, private US companies to defend our own border. It's just, oh man, we really don't defend our own country, like at all, in no way, shape, or form. It's crazy.
Remain in Canada indefinitely, collecting benefits that many Canadians themselves do not receive. So this isn't compassion, this is the chaos, sort of the chaos creation I was speaking about in the beginning of my speech. And it started when this government decided it was going to play politics with our borders. In 2017, Justin Trudeau's Welcome to Canada tweet encouraged tens of thousands of people to cross illegally from the United States and claim asylum, many after already being rejected in that safe, democratic country. Since then, more than 100,000 people have entered Canada illegally. Most are still waiting in the system, many housed at taxpayers' expense, while the truly vulnerable, those fleeing real persecution, are left behind. So this isn't fair, this isn't fairness, it is rather failure. A broken asylum system, Mr. Speaker, does not just strain compassion, it undermines public safety. We have seen the consequences at our borders and on our streets. Under this government, criminals slated for deportation have disappeared. Illegal guns continue to cross our borders, and the fentanyl crisis is devastating communities across this country, including in my own community of Oshawa. Walk through downtown Oshawa and you will see the toll this crisis has taken. Lives lost, families shattered, and neighborhoods struggling under the weight of addiction and fear. Our first responders, outreach workers, and volunteers are doing their best, but they're overwhelmed. According to Health Canada, more than 49,000 Canadians have died from apparent opioid toxicity since 2016, an entire community worth of lives from January to June 2024 alone. 79% of accidental opioid deaths involve fentanyl, nearly double the proportion from 2016. And I know my time will be divided today, and I have just a few seconds left before I resume after question period. So I will leave you with this and resume it after. My nephew 6 months ago, Cody Kirkland died from an accidental overdose, and fentanyl and its precursors are the reason for that. And I will bring that up again as we continue after oral questions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
My condolences to the honourable member on that tragic loss. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Winnipeg.
All right, here we go. We're roughly 15 minutes out.
Today I honor the late elder Stan Lapierre, whose radiant smile and gentle wise spirit were gifts to all that knew him. His compassion knew no bounds. His love poured freely into the lives of others, especially through his tireless care and love for families of murdered and disappeared women, girls, gender diverse people, and survivors of violence. I will always remember the light of his smile. It could brighten even the darkest of rooms. Though I knew Stan only briefly, I am profoundly grateful for his kindness, teachings, and love. His absence leaves a great void in our community, yet his legacy of humanity will continue to guide us. To his beloved partner, Elder Thelma Morisseau, your love reflected deep respect, joy, and devotion. My heart is with you and your family during your time of grief. Rest in power, dear Stan. Your light shines on. Thank you.
The honourable member for Toronto St. Paul's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Visiting Ottawa today are two incredible athletes, Ava Walsh and Gracie Rickman, as well as coaches, staff, and volunteers from Special Olympics Canada. For more than 50 years, the Special Olympics have shown us the power of inclusion, creating opportunities for Canadians with disabilities to build on their strengths, foster lifelong friendships, and shine on and off the field. Across the country, and in my riding of Toronto St. Paul's, where the beating heart of the organization has a home, I've seen how these programs bring communities together. They remind us that sport is not only about competition, but about belonging, confidence, and joy. Gracie and Ava, your determination and teamwork inspire us all. You embody what it means to lead with heart. On behalf of this House, thank you for your dedication, and thank you to everyone who makes the Special Olympics possible.
The honourable member for Edmonton South East.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal government, crime and chaos is out of control. Extortion has exploded into one of the fastest growing crimes in Canada, with threats against small business owners and innocent citizens. Just this weekend, in my riding of Edmonton South East, an innocent family had shot up their house as they were misidentified by gangsters. This is unacceptable and a direct result of Liberal soft on crime agenda. Canadians deserve to feel safe in their homes. That's why Conservatives want to restore mandatory jail time, repeal dangerous Liberal catch and release laws C5 and C75. To the innocent families home that got shot, this should not have happened to you. I and my fellow Conservatives will fight hard to stop crime so that the criminals, those tagged you, will face real consequences, not just a slap on the wrist. Thank you.
The honourable member for Sault Ste. Marie Algoma.
Speaker, today I rise to pay tribute to my friend Steve Butlin, who served as a member of Parliament in this House from 1988 to 1993. Steve and I also served on City Council from 2003 to 2015. He was a one-term mayor and did a fantastic job serving with great passion. He was a mentor to me and a partner in many initiatives. Together, we co-sponsored a motion declaring Sault Ste. Marie as the alternative energy capital of North America. I remember dearly a little story about Steve when he and I, as city councillors, visited the House of Commons at an AMO conference, and we walked in the door, and it was a guard that remembered him a decade later fondly and remembered his name, what party he belonged to, and everything. It was quite amazing the impact this guy had on every kind of people from all walks of life. My condolences to Sharon, his daughters, Stephanie, Susan, Stacy, their husbands, their grandchildren. Rest in peace, Steve. Rest in peace.
Honorable député de Charlebourg.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, on October 19th, 2015, the citizens of Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles did me the immense honour of electing me to the House of Commons. Today, 10 years later, I speak with gratitude and pride to mark this important milestone. 10 years of defending the interests of our families, seniors, youth, and all those who contribute to the vitality of our riding every day. I've had the privilege of working with organizations that embody our values of solidarity and commitment, the Knights of Columbus, the Patrons de Charlesbourg, our Golden Age clubs, our sports associations, and organizations that support people with different needs. These dedicated men and women, often volunteers, remind us that the strength of a community lies in mutual assistance, family, and shared responsibility. These values, deeply rooted in our riding, have guided me for a decade. I sincerely thank my constituents in Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles for their renewed confidence in me, and I will continue to serve them with the same passion. The Honourable Member for La Salle-Limar-Verdun. Mr. Speaker, in this month when we celebrate women, I'd like to take a moment to recognize an exceptional woman in my life, my wife, Carol Ann, who's celebrating her birthday this week. For more than 35 years of marriage, Carol Ann has been my rock, my inspiration, and the one who kindly accompanies me on each of my adventures, including this new political life.
Her strength, kindness, and compassion make her truly extraordinary. Everyone who meets her can feel her genuine, warm, and uplifting energy. Carol Ann, thank you for your unwavering support, your patience, and your love. You remind me every day what truly matters: family, respect, and kindness. Joyeux anniversaire.
Happy birthday, BB.
And I'm so grateful to share this journey with you. And as we celebrate Women's Month, let's take the time to recognize all the women who inspire us, who lift us, and make our community stronger every single day. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Perth Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to pay tribute to Martin Broadhagen, who died as the result of a tragic farm accident on the same land he tended to for his entire life. He was a man of tremendous work ethic, immense resiliency, and a good heart. Martin was devoted to his faith, his farm, and his family. He contributed to the community through junior farmers and 4-H, and he was the kind of person who would go out of his way to help his neighbors when they were in their time of need. He enjoyed a good auction sale and a good joke. He was a loving husband to Brenda and a caring father to his children, Amanda and Brian, who were truly his pride and joy. Though he is gone, his legacy lives on through them as they farm the land that meant so much to him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. We know that sport can transform lives, building confidence, creating bonds, and bringing joy. Everyone deserves to experience that. Across Canada, thousands of athletes benefit from programs supported by passionate volunteers and coaches through Special Olympics Canada, which embodies strength, pride, honor, courage, and friendship. Values that inspire us all. So today, let's come together to celebrate the inspiring spirit of all Special Olympians from coast to coast to coast, from the north to the east to the west. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to honor one of the most incredible organizations in the history of sport. While others will no doubt pay tribute to our beloved Blue Jays here this afternoon, I'm here to celebrate the many Special Olympics athletes joining us in Ottawa today. For 6 decades, Special Olympics has changed the lives of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities worldwide, including over 40,000 Canadian athletes who participate today. One of those athletes is my own son, Jaden, who radiates pure joy whenever he has a bowling ball in his hands. Another is Damien, a multi-sport Special Olympian and athlete ambassador I met this morning. Damien is carrying the torch in a...
Isn't that what they did in the US? They raised the price of the H-1B visas, or they raised the price of something for people coming into the country, didn't they? I mean, I agree to some extent But I feel like there's probably better ways to do it than making it 5 million for a visa. But I don't know. We need more like legit qualified workers, I feel like, opposed to just here's a visa, come on in. Then again, I don't know. It's such a abused system right now, and the current government cannot be trusted.
La Petite Maison de Pointe-Calumet. Founded in 1995 by Diane Grenier, La Petite Maison has grown thanks to the commitment of passionate individuals such as Melissa Corbeil, the current director, and her dedicated team. With more than 550 people assisted and dozens of volunteers, the organization supports families, children, and seniors on a daily basis through projects such as the Community Garden, Collective Kitchens, Food Aid, and the Petite Boîte PREF. Mr. Speaker, at La Petite Maison, the expression, it takes a village to raise a child, takes on its full meaning. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois and my constituents, I invite this House to join me in wishing La Petite Maison de Pointe-Calumet a wonderful anniversary. To all those who, for 30 years now, have been cultivating hope and solidarity there, thank you. You make all the difference.
The honourable member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, small businesses are the backbone of our communities. They create jobs, spark innovation, and build local pride. With October 19th to the 24th being Small Business Week here in Canada, I'm reminded this week and every day just how much small businesses in my riding of Bay of Quinte provide to our local communities. This week is about recognizing the hard work, creativity, and resilience of small businesses, especially through these challenging times. Small Business Week is also a moment to reflect on the challenges ahead and recommit to supporting every entrepreneur with the tools they need to thrive. Our government stands with you, ensuring you have the opportunities and tools to shape Canada's future. I look forward to honoring some of these businesses at the Quinte Business Achievement Awards this coming Friday, where many local small business champions will be recognized. Thank you to all the small businesses of Canada and to those of the Bay of Quinte.
The honourable member for Richmond Centre, Marpole.
Mr. Speaker, residents in Richmond are deeply concerned about the Coventry land ruling. This decision raises serious questions about long-standing private property rights in British Columbia. People want to know if their land titles are secure and what this means for their homes and their future. Yet the Liberal government has remained silent. There has been no explanation, no reassurance, and no plan. As a result, Richmond is holding a public information session on October 28th so residents can get answers that the federal government has failed to provide. Property ownership is a foundational Canadian right. Yes. It's not optional. It's a responsibility of the federal government to protect it. Canadians are watching, and they expect this government to stand up for their rights, not stand by in silence.
The honourable member for Mount Royal.
Mr. Speaker, today I want to welcome Jewish community leaders from the Centre for Israel and Jewish Affairs and the Jewish Federations of Canada who are here on Parliament Hill for their annual Advocacy Day. They come at a time when Canada's Jewish community is facing an alarming rise in anti-Semitism. Though Jewish Canadians make up just 1.2% of the population, we make up 70% of all religious-based hate crimes in this country. In 2024 alone, police reported over 900 such incidents, the highest number on record. Across Canada, synagogues, schools, and community centres have had to assume extraordinary security responsibilities, spending more than $40 million each year to keep their members safe. These leaders are here to call on all of us, regardless of party, to confront anti-Semitism with the seriousness with which it deserves. There have been firebombs, people assaulted, Jewish students targeted on campus, and this must end now. Let us stand with Canada's Jewish community and affirm that hate has no place in this country.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General has dropped another bombshell, and it landed right on the steps of the Canada Revenue Agency. The AG reports that the CRA answered just 33% of the 32 million calls it got last year. 33% is not a service level.
33.
It's a batting average. Perhaps the Blue Jays should hire the CRA. And when a call was answered, 83% of the responses given by the CRA were incorrect. Less accuracy than a Liberal budget projection. And here's the ticker. Call center employees don't even have to worry about giving the wrong answers. In performance reviews, CRA rates showing up for work and going on coffee breaks is a higher importance than delivering proper responses to taxpayers. Now, the CRA can't answer phones, but they've increased the amount of audits they're doing on Canadians by 10%. This is not a public service. It's a disservice to Canadians. After 10 years of Liberal mismanagement, Canadians deserve better.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, today I'd like to highlight the presence in Ottawa of a delegation of entrepreneurs and economic leaders from the Greater Quebec City area, led by Quebec International and its President and CEO, Carl Veal. In these times of economic uncertainty, these women and men brilliantly embody the dynamism, creativity, and know-how that are the strength of our regional economy. Their presence here demonstrates a firm commitment to building bridges, sharing their expertise, and exploring new avenues of cooperation with the federal government for the benefit of Quebec as a whole and of Canada as a whole. I join my colleague, the Minister of Government Transformation and Member of Parliament for Quebec City Centre, in extending our warmest greetings to them and in recognizing their outstanding contribution to innovation, job creation, and the sustainable prosperity of our communities. The Quebec City region stands out as a gateway to America, an economic engine, a hub of innovation, and a true source of national pride. Welcome to Ottawa, and thank you for putting Quebec City on the Canadian and international map.
The Honourable Member for Huron-Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last night, for a few hours, we were a nation united, gathered around our TVs watching the Toronto Blue Jays beat the Mariners in 7 games and reach the World Series for the first time in 32 years. The season started slow, but around the middle of May, something clicked. Playing with grit, hustle, good pitching, defense, and no easy outs in the lineups, the Blue Jays went 73-45 to finish first place, and we haven't looked back. We love Vladdy, and we've dreamt of what he could do since we signed him at 16 years of age. Gossman, Yasavage, Bieber, Scherzer, Hoffman, the list goes on of all the great pitching. And Kirky, how can you not admire him? A fan favorite, and the everyman in the lineup. In George Springer, who found the fountain of youth and had a career year. We love these Blue Jays because 41 million Canadians can see themselves in them. An underdog, hard work, never give up, and belief in yourself. A little more, let's get it on.
The Honourable Member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, October is Women's History Month, a time to honour the women who have shaped our country and to recommit ourselves to building a Canada where everyone can thrive. Today, women hold nearly 43% of leadership roles in Canada, a real improvement from just a few years ago, but representation is still uneven. Indigenous women, women with disabilities, and other marginalized women remain underrepresented, especially in senior and board positions. These numbers remind us that equality is not guaranteed, and it's something we must keep working towards. That's why I was proud to join the Reaching the Unreached event earlier this month in my riding of Brampton Centre, an organization dedicated to empowering and supporting women. I spoke with community leaders and discussed how we can continue to break down barriers for women in every sector. This month and every month, let's continue to advance gender equality and uplift women everywhere. To everyone watching, happy Women's History Month.
Oral questions.
All right, here we go. Question period, ladies and gentlemen.
Each and every dollar that this Prime Minister spends costs us. Each dollar is expensive for Canadians. This government and the Justin Trudeau government doubled inflation. Today, Statistics Canada published new numbers, according to which inflation is rising. 4 indicators are higher than projected, and grocery prices are going up twice as fast as the target. Will the Prime Minister, in the upcoming budget, decrease his taxes and inflationary spending so that Canadians can lead affordable lives? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to see that the opposition leader is excited for November 4th. I'm excited too, as are Canadians. Why? Because we will have good news on November 4th, Mr. Speaker. We will present good news to Canadians. We will present an ambitious plan. Last week, I was in Washington, and the Director General of the International Monetary Fund gave Canada and Germany as excellent examples of countries with the ability to make generational investments. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to build a strong, ambitious Canada in which Canadians are happy and proud. Mr. Speaker, we don't work for bankers in Washington. We're here working for single mothers who can't pay their bills, who can't afford groceries. The inflation rate is exploding, and this means that Canadians have to spend 70% more for the Canada Revenue Agency. Today, the Auditor General revealed that 15% of calls to the CRA are answered at some point. But even if you can get someone on the phone, you get the wrong information 83% of the time. Why do Canadians have to pay so much for such poor service? The Honourable Finance Minister. Mr. Speaker, I have even more good news for the opposition leader. He'll be happy to know that on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we have already taken action. We presented a 100-day plan to fix the situation at the Canada Revenue Agency, because on the government side of the House, we know that we have to do better. We know that we have to give Canadians good information. We know we have to be helpful. And we do something else on this side of the House. Mr. Speaker, we respect people who work in public service. We respect public service, and we will always do our best at all times to serve Canadians.
He admits they have to do better. It's not possible for them to do any worse, Mr. Speaker. The reality is today we learned that inflation is again on the march. All 4 measures of inflation are above Bank of Canada's targets. 2 are outside of and above the acceptable range. Food price inflation is rising 2 times the rate that Bank of Canada targets. No wonder we have 2 million people lined up at food banks every single day. This inflation has exploded since this Prime Minister doubled the deficit. Will he reverse his inflationary deficit and taxes in this coming budget?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I think we all know in this side of the House and Canadians, math might not be the cup of tea of the Leader of the Opposition. Neither may be economics, Mr. Speaker. But let me quote one of the authority in the world, which is the Director General of the International Monetary Fund, Mr. Speaker. She said just last week, then we have countries in the G7 that are in a better position. Germany and Canada stand up in that regard, Mr. Speaker. Both Germany and Canada recognize that this is a very testing time and they need to use their fiscal space. In the case of Canada, the Canadian authorities have been very decisive in taking action. Mr. Speaker, we're doing it.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
These fools are going to destroy us.
Mr. Speaker, his banker friends in Washington may think that they have fiscal space, but the single mothers who can't afford groceries have no space left at all to pay for liberal inflation. This government is forcing them to spend 70% more on the Canadian Revenue Agency. Today, the Auditor General revealed that only 15% of calls get responses on time. And even if someone does pick up the phone, there's an 83% chance they give you the wrong answer. Why does this government force Canadians to pay so much for such terrible service?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that, Mr. Speaker. At every step of the way, they fought against dental care, Mr. Speaker. At every step of the way, they fought against the National School Food Program, Mr. Speaker. At every step of the way, they fought against pharmacare, Mr. Speaker. At every step of the way, they fought against the programs that would support Canadians in time of need, Mr. Speaker. No one on this side of this House will tell us what to do. We're going to fight for Canadians. We're going to make Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Another day, more costly slogans from that Member of Parliament.
Here we go.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition from the top.
Another day and more costly slogans. But now Canadians are learning it was a bait and switch. Today, another terrible tragedy. As they laugh, 1,200 workers at the Ingersoll Cami plant learned that they would lose their jobs after that Prime Minister promised he would negotiate a win and that he would keep their jobs here in Canada. They join with 2,000 workers in Brampton, many more in Oshawa. How does the Prime Minister look in the eyes the very workers that he sold out and betrayed?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
I'll tell you how the Prime Minister how he will deal with the auto sector. He will look at the auto workers in the eyes and he will say, we will fight for your jobs. And that's exactly what we're doing. Every single day, we're negotiating back in Washington, but also, this is important.
But the jobs are disappearing, Melanie.
This morning with the Canadian CEO of GM, I was in conversation with the head of the labor union of Unifor, and I also talked to Doug Ford, and I talked to Vic Fideli. And you know what? We're putting in place a response group. We will make sure that we fight for these jobs. We need to make sure that...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
She announced just now that she talked to this person, and she talked to that person, and she talked to this other person, and she talked, and she talked, and they talk, and they talk, and nothing gets done, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are tired of talk. They want their job. This government, for this Prime Minister, looked these workers in the eye and said he would negotiate a win, that he would protect auto jobs, that there would be an all-in-Canada supply chain that would keep them working. They even gave $250 million tax dollars to GM for this plant. And now those workers don't know how they're going to pay their bills. How does this government explain the broken promise and betrayal?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Fight for these jobs, and we will hold the companies to account.
That's right.
That being said, let me talk to you about important jobs. 150 new jobs in St. Bruno at Alstom, 700 new jobs at AstraZeneca, 500 new jobs at Ferrero in Ontario, K&S Potash, 50 new jobs, Hitachi Energy, 500 new jobs. This government is building a strong Canadian economy.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the University of Quebec in Montreal was wise enough to forbid or block a conference of Imam Farouk, but he will still be in Brossard. That imam, that preacher, he will be able to spread hatred, and he will foment hatred legally in Canada. And why will he be able to do that? Because he legally has the right to do so. Will the government eliminate the religious exemption from the criminal code? The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we share the Leader of the Bloc Québécois' concerns. Hate speech does not belong in Canada. That's why the Minister of Justice is taking action through Bill C-5. We are especially targeting hatred. During the last legislature, we tabled legislation against hatred. We are going to do everything we can to ensure that hatred cannot exist in Canada. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. The Minister of Justice is not really getting at the core of the problem. The real problem is the religious exemption, which is still in effect. Spreading hatred is illegal in Canada unless it's for religious reasons. So, for instance, if a woman is assaulted in a war zone, for example, by Hamas in 2023 in September, that can be exempted as a religious exemption. Are those liberal values, truly? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I've already said, and I will repeat, that hate speech has no place in Canada. The Minister of Justice has offered to work with the Bloc Québécois on reforms which are before this House through Bill C9. Mr. Speaker, we're ready to work with them to...
Blanchet is not holding back today, guys. Wow, that was a big one.
Chambly. Well, there's an incredibly easy way to solve the problem. And the government would be able to be proud of what it's doing rather than doing something shameful. They can eliminate the religious exemption from their own bill. I encourage them to vote in favor of our amendment to eliminate the religious exemption and to forbid hatred and incitement to violence in our media and on our streets, even though that may be against multiculturalism. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, Bill C9 is currently being studied at the Justice Committee. We welcome all committee members to suggest amendments to the bill. We will hear from experts, subject matter experts. We're ready and willing to work with the Bloc Québécois and with all parties in this House to ensure that hate speech is not in Canada.
We all know the Prime Minister doesn't shop for his own groceries, so maybe someone over there should tell him what's going on with food prices. Food inflation has now reached the highest level since 2023. Fruits, vegetables, meat, even Halloween candy. Everything's getting more expensive and rising faster, not slower. The cost of living is soaring because the cost of government is soaring. The Prime Minister is spending more than even Justin Trudeau did, which means higher taxes and higher inflation for everyone who lives in the real world. So does the Prime Minister realize that his out-of-control spending mean real costs for real Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Speaker, time and again we see those Conservatives fight against policies that Canadians not only are benefiting from, but that Canadians are asking that we make permanent. Things like the school food program, Mr. Speaker, which many advocates and indeed families have praised. In fact, in my own riding,
Guibault is arguing with somebody across the aisle. I went to the grocery store yesterday.
Mr. Speaker, but the ability to learn how to prepare it themselves. These are the kinds of things that are helping Canadian families, and every step of the way, those guys fight against it.
Exactly.
God, this party is out of touch, man.
Speaker, is that Liberal minister who sat here for 10 years while people lined up at food banks, and that's what she has to say. Runaway Liberal deficits, doubled grocery prices, and now the same people who caused the crisis think that the solution is just to spend more of other people's money. It's not just Liberal deficits driving up food costs. They voted against removing every hidden food tax that they themselves imposed. Packaging taxes, the industrial carbon tax, another 17 cents a litre because of the fuel standard. It's a religion to them. Food prices are soaring, fridges are empty. Why don't they scrap the hidden taxes?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Great job, Mr. Speaker, again, we see that member and indeed the entire Conservative Party pretend that there is a tax on food. Canadians are smarter than that. They know when they go to the grocery store that food is not taxed. And so instead of imaginary problems, we're coming up with real solutions on this side, Mr. Speaker, whether it's for families, whether it's for seniors, whether it's for workers. We're here for Canadians, both in the good times and the bad. And Mr. Speaker, I just add that I hope that this concern is going to translate into support for our budget that will be tabled later on.
The Honourable Member.
Name one solution that's worked. I'll wait.
Grocery stores are no longer saying hello, they're apologizing. But it's these Liberals who should be apologizing for their inflationary deficits that have driven up food prices. Inflation data out today confirms food prices have once again skyrocketed, up 4% as everyday groceries become even more unaffordable for families. So we just need the number, Mr. Speaker. How much higher do food prices need to go before the Liberals admit their policies are starving Canadians?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-US trade.
Mr. Speaker, our colleague referred to apologies. Perhaps he'd like to lean forward a couple of rows and suggest to his boss, the Leader of the Opposition, that he should apologize to the men and women who serve in Canada's RCMP for attacking their integrity and attacking the work that they do to protect all Canadians. He should be ashamed of himself. He pretends to stand up for the police. He attacks them unfairly, and he should apologize to the women and men who serve in the RCMP. That would be a good apology, Mr. Speaker.
No, they're not gonna let that one go. They're gonna drag that one for as long as they can.
They're so focused on listening to their own spin, they've tuned out the grumbling sounds of millions of hungry Canadian stomachs. The Prime Minister said he would be judged by the prices people pay at the grocery store. Well, with food prices up another 4%, thanks to his Liberal government's inflationary deficits, Canadians have made up their minds. He's an empty suit making empty promises that have led to too many empty stomachs. How is this acceptable?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We recognize on this side of the House that families need supports in meeting affordability questions. This is why we have supports in place and why time and time again we have stood for the National School Food Program, for early learning and childcare, making it affordable and accessible across the country, dental care, the Canada Child Benefit, and at each and every opportunity the members opposite voted against these supports for families, for children, for Canadians from coast to coast. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal government, everything is costing more, especially food. New food inflation data shows prices in Atlantic Canada are climbing faster than the national average, and in Newfoundland and Labrador, they're under tremendous pressure. Our province already has the highest unemployment rate in the country, yet families are being hit again at the grocery store. Beef up 14%, sugar up 9%, and meat up 6%. Runaway Liberal spending is fueling inflation, and every dollar they waste makes life harder. When will the government stop the reckless spending and start making life affordable for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I welcome this opportunity to share with the member across the way from Newfoundland and Labrador that a single mom in her riding who earns $15,000 a year can now access up to $25,000 because she will automatically get the benefits for her and her children. This is good news, this is affordability, and this is not a slogan.
Bravo! The Honourable Member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, while they brag, more and more people line up at the food banks in Newfoundland and Labrador.
That's right.
They voted against our motion to reduce food costs. It's not good enough. Sneaky, hidden Liberal food taxes, like the clean food regulations, are driving up food costs. And since March, food prices have risen 48% faster in Canada than in the U.S. This year alone, food banks are expecting 4 million visits. When will the Prime Minister end his inflationary spree and finally make life affordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to again remind my colleague of the benefit of the school food program. I have spoken with moms who absolutely are grateful their children now have food in their bellies and are not separated from all the other children that can expect the basic right to have food in the mornings. I also want to remind my colleague of the importance of the dental program, the child benefit, and also $10 a day child care. This is affordability. It is not loose slogans.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, inflation is still out of control under this Liberal government. The government is spending more, and Canadians are the ones paying the bill. Today, Stats Canada announced that consumer prices rose 2.4% year over year in September in Canada. What's worse, in Quebec, they rose 3.3%. Furthermore, Quebec was one of the provinces where gas prices increased, rising by 2.7%. Liberal deficits are very expensive for Canadians, but even more so for Quebecers. When will this Prime Minister finally get his deficits under control to ensure that Quebec is no longer the inflation champion of Canada? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, our friend across the way previously sat at Quebec's National Assembly where decisions are made differently. We have chosen to support families, to support childcare and daycare services, to support pharmacare, to support seniors, to support young people. And I think he would have made the same choice at the National Assembly of Quebec, though. So why is he rising to criticize us? Is he going to vote against all of our supports? If so, he should admit it. The Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-l'Île. Mr. Speaker, can you imagine being that disconnected from Quebecers? On Thursday, the federal government announced that it will invest $52 million for Quebec's healthcare system, but not to treat people and patients. No, they're investing $52 million to anglicize our hospitals. Mr. Speaker, what our hospitals really need is money to treat people, not money to make Quebec more English-speaking. English is doing just fine in Quebec, including in hospitals. When will this government stop its crusade to make Quebec more English-speaking? The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. With all due respect to my colleague across the way, Mr. Speaker, he knows full well that our government is the one which has done the most for official languages in Canada through the reform of the Official Languages Act. We have invested $2 billion in official languages, and for the first time, we are going to meet our Francophone immigration outside Quebec targets, and we're even going to triple those over the next 10 years. We're the first government to do so much to take this type of action. We are also helping Francophone communities outside Quebec. What the member claims is totally false. The Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-l'Île. English is far from being under threat in Quebec. It is unacceptable to waste $52 million of our money to make our hospitals more English-speaking, instead of spending that money on treating people. Naturally, the Quebec government has criticized the move. I quote the Quebec government, "Once again, the federal government is encroaching on Quebec's areas of jurisdiction. It should instead take the funds and give Quebec an unconditional transfer to let the government, which is responsible for healthcare, decide how to spend the money." Mr. Speaker, why not transfer the money to Quebec so that it can be put to good use? Good use meaning treating Quebecers. The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, I'm shocked, and I think most Quebecers are shocked too, because our government is investing in essential services. We're investing in language minority communities throughout the country. For instance, we've helped the Georges Dumont Hospital in Moncton. We've helped healthcare centres in the prairies. We are investing, of course, in healthcare in Quebec. Quebecers are shocked by what the member is suggesting. Is the member really suggesting that we should deprive Anglophone Quebecers from receiving healthcare in their first language? Is that what he's suggesting, Mr. Speaker?
For Calgary East. This Liberal Prime Minister's economic record is even worse than Justin Trudeau's. By doubling the deficit, he's making everything more expensive, especially groceries. Today's devastating inflation numbers confirm Liberal deficits are crushing Canadians. Rent up 5%, groceries up 4%. The four core inflation numbers all above the bank's target. This so-called budget experts' math is not mathing. Will these Liberals stop their inflationary deficits that are driving up the cost of living?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the Conservative Party opposite has a hard time, but here's some facts. 21 straight months in the targeted inflation rate from Bank of Canada. Our economy grew jobs in September. We have the lowest debt in the G7, lowest deficit G7, lowest net debt to GDP in the G7. Mr. Speaker, our economy has had challenges, but it is strong, it is growing. Our Prime Minister was elected to build the strongest economy in the G7. That's exactly what he's going to do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
And yet this Prime Minister has built the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. And did these guys learn anything from Justin Trudeau that the more they spend, the worse it gets for Canadians? 10 years of deficit spending has left Canadians with high inflation, and it's only getting worse. And in typical Liberal fashion, this Prime Minister promised to cap government spending, yet he's going to double the deficit. After 10 years of these Liberal deficits, what don't they understand? The more they spend, the more expensive things get for Canadians.
The Honourable Secretary.
The Conservatives need some harder hitting stuff, man. I'm just saying.
Our economy
economy is not shrinking. Our economy grew. It added jobs. Interest rates are down. Inflation is with targeted rates. On November 4th, we're going to table a budget. We're going to spend less. We're going to invest more in capital projects. We're going to invest in nation-building projects, infrastructure, housing. We are going to build the strongest economy in the G7. We're not going to take any lessons from somebody that's never worked in the economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Like, the Liberals just constantly lie, and then the Conservatives just go out of their way to repeat themselves 7 times in a row. And it's kind of like, guys, come on. What are you doing?
Topic at my booth. New inflation data confirms all 3 core inflationary measures are above target. Grocery inflation is up 4%. Rent inflation is up nearly 5% in the last year. Liberal deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. Will the Liberals get their inflationary deficits under control to make life more affordable for Canadians?
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know where the party opposite's been, but we know where the leader of the opposition's been. He spent the last week peddling dangerous far-right conspiracy theories about law enforcement in our country. He should apologize. While he's been attacking the rule of law, Canada's new government spent the last week announcing a new suite of affordability measures to strengthen the rule of law, crack down on crime, keep Canadians safe. This will be included in our first budget. I urge Conservative MPs to speak up, stand up, call on the leader opposite to apologize. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kitchener South, Hespeler.
Speaker, what Canadians care about is the cost of living, and the more these Liberals deficit spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. New inflation data today confirms this. All 3 core inflation targets are above target. Rent is up 5% over the year. Groceries are up 4% over the year. After 10 years of their deficits, the cost of living in this country cannot take anymore. So will the Liberals stay on focus, get their inflationary deficits under control to make life more affordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Small Business, Tourism and Gender Equality.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians trust that our government has their back. Why? Because we are making life more affordable and we have cut...
No, you're not. No, you're not. Just stop.
...to put more money back into their pockets. And speaking of food, Mr. Speaker, good news. Our government is making the school food program permanent. This is going to put $800 back into Canadians' pockets to actually feed healthy meals at school. And also, 5.5 million low-income Canadians will automatically receive federal benefits through CRA tax filings. This is real, tangible benefits for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Katiskamik, Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, last week in my riding, I spoke to families who are struggling to make ends meet. In a country like ours, it shouldn't be like that, yet Quebec is seeing inflation rise to 3.3% because of this inflationary Liberal government. As a result, the price of gas, rent has gone up by 10%, groceries has skyrocketed. Families can't do it anymore. Will the Liberals finally get their inflationary deficits under control and make life more affordable for Canadians and Quebecers? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. The answer is yes. The member voted against every support measure that we've put forward over the last year, so he is not credible in his question. If we want to talk about credibility, Mr. Speaker, we know that there are still reasonable Conservatives. Vicious attacks from the leader of the official opposition against the RCMP is unacceptable, against the rule of law is unacceptable. We see it on the radio, we see it on social media, on TV, but no one across the aisle has attacked the leader of the opposition to say that it's unacceptable. Will one of them finally do so?
For Markham, Smithfield.
I'm proud to be part of a new government that has championed trade.
Oh, here we go.
Since day one. We've broken down internal trade barriers within Canada, and we've signed new trade agreements.
A new government, and look who's sitting right beside her.
And intensity that Canadians expect of us.
And in front of her, 2 Trudeau ministers right there.
on our government's latest action to expand and grow our trade relationship with the United Kingdom and what it means for Canadians.
Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Good news, Mr. Speaker. Today we table legislation to expand the CPTPP trading bloc to welcome our partners from the United Kingdom, a major step forward for Canadian trade. Why the UK, Mr. Speaker? The UK is Canada's third largest trading partner. Last year alone, they represented $28 billion of Canadian exports. That's billions of dollars of Canadian products produced by Canadian workers and communities across Canada, Mr. Speaker. This is yet another step forward in our trade diversification efforts.
And nowhere near the amount from the US.
Mr. Speaker, after the Prime Minister failed to negotiate a win with Trump, Canada's auto industry has been hit yet again. Devastating news from this morning where over 1,200 highly skilled auto workers at the Cami Ingersoll plant are being laid off by GM indefinitely. This adds to the 2,200 job losses in Oshawa and the 3,000 announced in Brampton. The Liberals have sold out our auto workers. So will the Prime Minister finally admit that he's lost control of the wheel and is driving our auto sector off the cliff?
Yeah! Way to go!
The Honourable Minister for Industry.
Colleague comes from the region, and I look forward to working with him to finding solutions. Obviously, we will fight for these jobs. Not only will we do that, but this morning we were already on the phone with the company to be in solution mode. We were with the GM CEO, with the Unifor Labour, and also with Doug Ford and Vic Fideli. Our goal is to bring back a new model to Ingersoll, and we're on it. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
I've been talking to the auto workers who are losing their jobs now because of their failed policies. An auto worker in Ingersoll called me this morning and says he doesn't know how he will pay for his mortgage. He doesn't know how he will feed his family. There is a real sense of anxiety in our community. The Liberals blew billions in EVs, and now Canadian workers are the ones that are paying the price and their families. So, will the Liberals finally hit the brakes and stop selling out Canadian workers?
L'Honorable Ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague is right in saying that there's real anxiety right there, and I agree, because I've been in contact with workers and I feel it as well. So our goal is to make sure that we are able to bring back jobs to Ingersoll, to work with the company, to work with the government of Ontario, to work with the labor unions. But meanwhile, we'll make sure that we continue to engage with the United States, because at the end of the day, we know that this is because of the unjustified tariff by the President against the auto sector. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, this news out of GM today is another devastating blow for auto workers. It comes less than a week after Stellantis announced 3,000 layoffs as they move production from Canada into the U.S. The Prime Minister looked Canadians in the eye and promised that in exchange for their votes, he would prevent auto sector jobs from happening. Well, they're happening. If the government included a Canadian-wide job protection plan in their $15 billion deal to Stellantis, they can simply invoke that clause. The minister who signed the contract should be able to answer this question. Did they include a jobs protection clause in the contract to Stellantis?
L'Honorable Ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the Conservatives have been wanting to see the contracts that are linked to the Stellantis plant. And you know what? We've said yes. So the opposition on the committee will have access to the contracts. And they will discover that indeed we negotiated well, and indeed Stellantis is on the hook, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, it's been a week, and all we've got from this minister is political theatre. She's bragging about who she gets on the phone. She's bragging about the tough talks she's having. Here's the thing. If they actually included a jobs protection clause in the contract, all they have to do is invoke it. I'm starting to get a terrible feeling. I'm starting to worry that they signed a $15 billion deal with Stellantis and didn't include a guarantee to protect those Canadian jobs. Can the minister tell Canadians very clearly, explicitly, did they include a jobs protection plan for all jobs at Stellantis when they forked over $15 billion?
Whoa, I leave for like 2 minutes and Jolie is getting annihilated.
Speaker, I know that.
Oh, she's doing the magic hands.
Spook Canadians, but I just would like to remind him that the therefore no money is spent.
Yeah, start from the top, please.
I know my colleague's trying to spook Canadians right now, but I think what is really, really important to remember is that any support from the government was linked to the production of batteries. And in that sense, our support is linked from the moment that the production is happening. The production has not necessarily happened yet. That being said, Mr. Speaker, what we will do is to make sure that we hold Stellantis to account, because obviously jobs are important in the Brampton facility, and we'll continue to fight for these jobs.
The honourable member for Calgary McKnight.
Mr. Speaker, during the last election, the Prime Minister promised Canadians that he would get a deal with the United States. But since he was elected, tens of thousands of Canadians have lost their jobs, and $54 billion of investment has fled the country. Last week, Stellantis announced its plans to move their Brampton plant to Illinois after the finance minister signed a deal giving them $10 billion taxpayer dollars. Canadian auto workers want to know what job guarantees were in these contracts.
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-US trade.
Mr. Speaker, our colleague has heard very well that the government will make these contracts available to the opposition. So again, he can assert a series of sort of fabricated conspiracy theories. Doesn't make them true. What is true, Mr. Speaker, is that our government is supporting a proud tradition of building vehicles and cars in Canada. Over 100 years of Canadian workers building the...
I guess people losing their jobs is just a conspiracy theory.
Support those businesses and fight to ensure we get a deal with the United States that's good for Canadian businesses and Canadian workers.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, Canadians have known it for a while, but the Auditor General has just confirmed it. The Canada Revenue Agency is a Liberal disaster. It's uncontrollable and out of control. Last June, barely 5% of calls were handled within the expected time frame. But even worse, when you do get through, 4 times out of 5, the information provided was wrong. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Minister for National Revenue. Are they aware that this affects the most vulnerable among us, people on low revenue, seniors, and those who can't pay for an accountant? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for my colleague, and he knows it full well, but Mr. Speaker, he should be overjoyed because we have already acted. We didn't wait for a report to be published by the Auditor General. We've already acted upstream. I enacted a 100-day plan to improve service because we want to offer good services to Canadians, and I'm sure that he will announce it in his riding. We've also tabled in the next budget a way to obtain benefits automatically. That's a great bonus for those who need more, and it will help affordability in our country. I'm sure he's overjoyed right now. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenrak. Well, I'm glad that the Minister is happy, but I'd like to remind him that 2 years ago he did the same thing. He claimed, I've met all the leaders of grocery stores and grocery prices will go down. But it's skyrocketed since, and that's the truth of the matter. But back to the CRA, Mr. Speaker. The auditor stated the agency places more importance on adhering to work shift schedules and breaks than on the actual accuracy of information provided to Canadians. What does he have to say about that? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I don't know who is watching QP today, but I'm not sure that the people in riding will be proud of him attacking those working for the CRA. These public servants do exemplary work. What they need, Mr. Speaker, is that we improve processes.
Well, only answering, what was it, 33% of calls? That's not a good standard.
Hard to serve Canadians, and we'll give them the means to do even better.
Member for Calgary Midnapore.
3 things are certain in life: death, taxes, and you will wait on hold when you call the CRA, according to today's Auditor General report. CRA's own service standards were only met 18% of the time, with wait times doubling over the last year. Only 17% of agents could accurately provide basic tax information. Complaints have increased by 145% in the last 3 years. So can the minister explain why Canadians are paying so much, yet receiving so little?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, look, Canadians deserve timely, accurate, and consistent information from the CRA. We accept the Auditor General's report. We've embarked upon a 100-day plan. Service is improving. We've got a long ways to go, but we are working with the leadership of the CRA. We will make it right. Canadians will get the service they deserve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, instead of focusing on other people's jobs, that member should start doing his. Almost 10 years to the date, the Liberals signed a $50 million contract for the CRA call system. It is now almost quadrupled to $190 million. And operational costs at the CRA have increased by 70% under these Liberals. While taxpayers wait on hold, Liberal insiders and contractors cash in. So, does the government have a hang-up with value for money? Is this another Arrive scam?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the CRA for delivering Canadians great service like the Canada Child Benefit, Disability Tax Credit. Where would Canadians be without the CRA delivering COVID benefits? Mr. Speaker, service levels need to improve. We accept the Auditor General's report. We will get this right. Service levels and access are improving. We have a lot more work to do, but we will deliver for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, just hire some more. That'll work.
Stansted.
Oh boy.
Mr. Speaker, the RCMP's independence is fundamental to its proper functioning. This is a principle that all responsible leaders should respect and not undermine. Last week, the leader of the Conservative Party decided to criticise the RCMP, saying that they covered up scandals. And
this is going to be the security clearance 2.0. They're going to talk about this RCMP thing for weeks to come.
Reiterate the importance of the RCMP's independence and remind why it's important to have trust in our institutions. The Honourable Minister.
President.
Mr. Speaker, thank you to my colleague. The Conservative leader's dangerous rhetoric is irresponsible.
The opposition in relation to the RCMP is completely unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. As you know, the RCMP is an independent organization, one that enhances the rule of law in Canada and one that ensures the safety and security of Canadians. Day in, day out, the RCMP officers on the ground work to save and secure this country, and I demand that the Leader of the Opposition retract the statement and apologize to the members of the RCMP.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, while they continuously try and distract from their irresponsible policy, we on this side of the House stand united against Liberal deficits, against Liberal incompetence, and for the Canadian people. For 10 years, the Liberals have promised deficits would lead to investment, while Canada had the worst per capita growth in the G7 and a more than 10% drop in investment per worker. That's no surprise to Canadians, though. The same government, we have the same failed Liberal policies. So will they finally stop their inflationary deficit so Canadians can afford to live?
Honourable Government House Leader.
My honourable friend would like the distractions to stop. I suggest that he tell his leader to not go on podcasts anymore, to not pay for shawarma with crypto, and to not call into doubt the independence of our institutions like the CBC, the Bank of Canada, and the proud men and women of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill South.
Every dollar this Liberal Prime Minister spends is taken out of the pockets of hardworking Canadians through inflationary deficits and higher taxes. Let's not Let's not forget that for 10 years, Liberals claimed runaway deficits would spark investment. The current finance minister, back when he was industry minister, helped double the national debt, promising it would lead to growth. And what did Canadians get? The worst per capita GDP growth in the G7, and investment per worker collapsed by more than 10%. So, will he ensure that his next budget will stop the inflationary deficit so Canadians can afford to live again, or will he instead double down on Trudeau's policies and make Canadians pay for his failures?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, while Halloween is coming up, the only thing scary in here is the misinformation coming from the Conservatives. We're cutting red tape, we're building homes faster, and we've introduced dental care that now more than 2 million seniors have signed up for. We're building an economy that works for everyone, while Conservatives have a record of pushing the retirement age higher. I can't think of anything scarier than that. And while they're voting against support for seniors, we're empowering older Canadians, and we're protecting not only their dignity, but their peace of mind.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, this Liberal government has been taking Canadians for a ride. They hold the record for the largest annual deficit. They hold the record for doubling the accumulated deficit of all governments combined over the past 50 years. The direct impact on Canadians' wallets is that everything costs more. They need to stop saying that they are putting more money in Canadians' pockets. Will the Prime Minister keep his promise that the deficit will not exceed $42 billion, which would give Canadians just a little bit of breathing room? The answer is simple, yes or no. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Now, Mr. Speaker, the issue with the Conservatives is that they keep talking about inflationary deficits. However, they never identify what an inflationist spending is. Is it helping industry? Is it helping workers? Is it helping with dental care? Is it helping with pharmacare? Could they perhaps give us an iota of identification of what actually is an inflationary spending?
The Honourable Member for Cardigan.
Mr. Speaker, in 2024 alone, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre reported that Canadians lost millions of dollars to fraud. There's not one person in this House today who does not know a senior, a newcomer, or a vulnerable person who has been affected by financial abuse and scams. Yesterday, our government announced that it's taken action. Can the Minister of Finance provide an update on how our new government plans to help Canadians by combating fraud, financial abuse, and scams? New member, 5 months.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, finally a good question, Mr. Speaker. My colleague and I were proud yesterday to announce a very important measure to combat fraud and financial abuse. Yes, the Conservative may want to listen to that, and improve financial security for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. In our upcoming budget, we will introduce the first ever national anti-fraud strategy, Mr. Speaker. It will also implement a new financial crime agencies to lead Canada's effort in combating financial crime, Mr. Speaker. And we will also introduce a new code of conduct for prevention of economic abuse. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we understand we need to help our seniors. We need to help the most vulnerable.
The Honourable Member for...
So they created a new agency that's going to be backed up just like the CRA.
After years of talk,
Great.
The Liberals continue to break their promise to get shovels in the ground when it comes to the Ring of Fire. Thousands of jobs and billions of dollars are at stake.
It seems like the only time the Liberals create jobs is when they create government jobs or a government agency, or they invest themselves with the RCMP, which they claim to be independent. It's wild.
The Liberals stop breaking their promise and get shovels in the ground now so our region can get to work.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the Ring of Fire represents an immense opportunity to develop Canada's critical minerals in partnership with First Nations. We've established a regional assessment working group to advance the Ring of Fire alongside robust consultations with Indigenous rights holders. We're actively working with the province of Ontario to increase regulatory efficiencies, and we look forward to concluding a one project, one review process with the province of Ontario.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Trump is pushing for Stellantis to ship 3,000 jobs from Canada to the United States. And today, GM announced it's closing another plant in Ingersoll. That's another 1,000 jobs, making it clear what we've known from the start, that Trump is set on destroying the Canadian economy. And yet, the Prime Minister continues to flatter Trump, calling him a, in quotes, modern man, in quotes, world-class leader. Mr. Speaker, he's stealing our jobs. When will the Prime Minister finally fight back against this economic extortion and protects jobs and workers in Canada?
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker, of course it is not lost on this government that these unjustified tariffs are having real impacts at home and real impacts at the Stellantis.
But you know what is lost? Thousands of jobs. That's what is.
The NDP work with Unifor to push back against the decision of the company to make sure ultimately that we hold Stellantis to account. We need to put pressure on. Let's work together. Let's make this happen.
That's it.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians across the country are suffering from punishing high costs of daily essentials like food, housing and utilities. Grocery prices are sky high and rent is completely unaffordable. Yet, today's inflation numbers show the problem is getting worse, with food up 4%, rent up 4.8%, and 9.6% in Quebec. Under Liberals, life keeps getting harder for workers and their families. When will this government take the affordability crisis seriously, admit their policies are not working, and take effective action to help?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Speaker, I want to thank the member for bringing the affordability issue on this floor, Mr. Speaker. We have worked together. There's a lot we can be proud of what we have achieved together, Mr. Speaker. When you think about dental care, when you think about farmer care, when you think about the National School Food Program, those are all the type of programs, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative call that slogans. When you're on the government side, you call that program because it delivers benefits to Canadians. We're going to continue to work with our colleagues of this House to make sure that we are there for Canadians in times of need, Mr. Speaker.
Alors, ça met fin à la période des questions pour aujourd'hui.
All right. That's for question period. Yep. All done. Said and done. Just remember what Don Davies just said there about the cost of living when the budget comes around and the NDP. I have a very strong and strange feeling that they're going to vote for this budget and help pass it. Just remember that. They love to cry about how everything's expensive, but they love to back the Liberal Party every step of the way. Will the NDP continue to do so? Like I said, I have a strong feeling they will. I thought there was going to be a motion brought before the House, but not entirely sure what's going on. This speaker is just, with the utmost sarcasm, he is fantastic. And the House is currently muted. Anyway, I believe there's a couple committees going on later today, so I'll probably grab some clips from them. Always interesting stuff going on in the House of Commons.
Okay, quickly, please, colleagues. Quickly, quietly. We need to get on with the orders of the day.
Orders of the day, government orders, government...
All right, so there's going to be no motion. That is going to do it for today's question period live stream. Thank you all for joining. Once again, Spider-Man, it looks like it's a bit of a ghost town here on YouTube after the channel change. I honestly don't expect there to be much of anybody over here after the channel change. It might take a month or two. But anyway, main channel going strong. That's all that matters. Thank you all for joining on Rumble and Kick. Have a great rest of your day or night, ladies and gentlemen. Take it easy.
Life to an accidental overdose 6 months ago during the middle of our last federal election. And I